So, welcome everyone. This is our fourth in a series of taking comics seriously. I don't imagine anyone here needs to be convinced that comics are something we should take seriously. It is often people working in the industry and people who study the industry will often kind of complain about the idea of comics not being treated as an art form. Although I don't know if that's as prevalent now as it has been historically. If anyone needs ammunition in the argument of why we should take comics seriously, I would point out that the comics spawn all different kinds of culture, particularly film, video games, things like that. If you were to take an average person on the street and you were to ask them to name 10 Shakespeare characters, they're not going to get very far. You ask them to name 10 Marvel superheroes, they can do that in a second. So this is something that penetrates people's lives in a way that other forms of culture just don't. Comics are a mass medium, they've always been a mass medium. They reach out to various different groups, people who would not ordinarily read, or people who would not think of themselves as readers, will sit down and read through a stack of comics without thinking of that as reading. But when they do so, they're absorbing parts of comic culture, they're absorbing things about art, they're absorbing things about narrative, about storytelling, about characters, about the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. Comics are hugely important as a form of culture. So this is the fourth in a series of talks we've done about comics in the Bahamas. Just to check, how many people have attended one of those panels before? A couple of people? That's great. So the first one we had was in 2017?
2017.
Yeah. Where we had this same panel gathered together to talk about the work we're doing, the work that's being done in the Bahamas in animation, cartooning, and comics. We were very lucky to have Stan Burnside come and introduce that, and we had a packed auditorium. That was a really great start to the conversation, putting people in dialogue who had been working in comics but had been kind of siloed and hadn't been used to working with one another or talking with one another. We had another panel session in the last Blue Flamingo Literacy Festival where we brought in people who are Renbert's mentees, who are now breaking into the world of comics. We also had a session where we had Eddie Minnis, we had Lamaro Smith, we had Bonefish, and we had Jamal,
yeah, Stevie.
Yes. So we got all of them in a room together, and they helped build this kind of oral history of comics and cartooning in the Bahamas, going back to the very first newspaper strips that ran in the Bahamas. And so this panel here is designed to cap everything off, to kind of bring us back full circle and to look again at the work that professional comic book creators and animators and cartoonists are doing in the Bahamas, and to bring attention to that work. So, I'm going to hand off to Ren.
Oh, thank you.
What do you want to do?
I just want to reiterate what you said already in the first panel. I think that one was more about respect, because Stan Burnside being there, the historian that he is, and at that time he was still the president of the National Art Gallery, him being there was very a passing of the torch. I think that's when we met Bonefish, we met Stevie Burrows, and Stan Burnside, who gave a round of applause and encouraged others to really celebrate, I apologize, to really celebrate what was happening and realize that hadn't happened before in the industry. That is, even us four being here, three of the four here are fully employed somewhere, and the other guy draws all day, and that's fun, right? I'm not pointing at nobody in particular. But the next session with the newspaper strips, that's again historical, because anybody ever read Stan's work or Jackson's work? Sideburns? Yeah, so Sideburns highly influenced my style. I haven't taken the route of most people of just watching Japanese animation and cartoons. I watch Bahamian narratives, and I watch Bucky and Barabi and saw Patricia Merrick-Luna's work and her husband's work in True Bahamian. So I've devoted years to finding the style, and that was about recognizing who's drawing in the paper now. So of course, if you read a few of the papers, you'll see that pieces Pushing the Envelope is by Jamal, the celebrity artist. It's funny, most people don't connect that. That's just funny. I just wanted to share that. Like, they don't see the celebrity artist as the guy who draws for the paper. But it's true. You also have Stan Burnside, who does a piece. Eddie Minnis started it, and just to recap it. So Eddie Minnis, when he first came out from school, he wanted to be an architect. And, moving on. He decided to draw for the papers because nobody was doing it. And then when he stopped, he passed the torch over to Stan Burnside, who recommended Stevie Burroughs, who then recommended Jamal. So the trickling effect, and that's what established will be up to date in the newspaper. So I just wanted to say that again on recording. And do I introduce myself?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
And do the update one time?
Yeah. I didn't introduce myself either, so maybe we should do that.
Yeah, let's
full introduction.
Full introduction.
Yeah.
So you can start it.
So my name is Dr. Phillip Smith. I teach here at the University of The Bahamas in the School of English Studies. And in fact, last semester, I taught the first graphic narratives class at the university, so we've had that privilege. So now people in the English department who are studying English can take a class in studying comics. And Mouse was very kind to call in on us during that.
I am Renbert Mortimer, aka Mainhead. I'm a cartoonist, one caricature artist, but I do comic scripts. I teach it in the high school system. My approach for comic and animation is to teach more Bahamians the skills, and I'll be privy to the realities of art inside the country right now, which is as I go to Family Islands. Many students don't even get taught art anymore. I think after grade 5, it's pretty hard to find art teachers. That's still true? Yeah, so when I traveled the islands and I realized how much of a problem it was inspiring to still find so many students still drawing. So I started a mentorship program, and for the update, I have a version of Conk-Man, but I do give respect to Lamaro, who did it first. Mine is called The Jokey Adventures of Conk-Man. So it starts off with a Jonesaw, who's secretly rich and strong, and his daddy is hot cake in his mother's beside. So that's the most I could give. I was going to do a live action, but I was discouraged recently by something. So I'm actually going to focus on my second comic strip, which is Curing the Last of Kind. It's more of an educational comic strip, but just the powers in darkness. Pretty much my update. I'm just looking for voice actors and animators at this point going forward, and that's my goal for the next 1 to 2 years.
Hello everyone, I am Lamaro Smith. I am an illustrator and animator. Quick backstory, I grew up in Grand Bahama, Holmes Rock, so I'm not there from Nassau. I recently moved there. And I work full-time as a designer, illustrator, animator. I create primarily like storyboards, graphic design, and animated commercials. One of the recent things is the Doctor's Hospital thing I did recently. And a lot of commercials for cable bombs back in the day. Right now, I'm still doing that. I'm still freelancing, but I'm focusing more on educating. I'm also working on my own comic book called Conk-Man, the Man of Shell. And just a brief synopsis on that. I created the story out of just a funny notion that we don't really have a superhero. And superheroes are about our modern day mythology. Those are sacred stories that we kind of pass on. The West has it with DC and Marvel, those are gods. But the Bahamas doesn't really have that global standing in that area. So kind of as a life challenge, I wanted to create a comic book that represents the Bahamas, not just the touristy aspect that most people know us for in the world. I wanted to create a comic book that kind of showcases Bahamianisms and what we go through and the challenges we face. And so through more working on Conk-Man, I struggled to gear him towards environmental aspect, because that's a problem that it's kind of an undertone in the human society, but it's crucial and no one's really paying too much attention to it. So Conk-Man is an avenue to tell these stories, and it's also an avenue for me to kind of push myself and create art for the Bahamas that's gonna branch out. And I recently launched the Instagram. I'm still working on the website, and I'm still working on the full book release, which will be happening very soon.
I'm Joain, 28. I'm an illustrator, comic book artist, and currently into animation. I have, I think, 3 series ongoing now. One's called Canyon, the other's called Supernova, and I have another one called Fair Winds. And I publish those at least twice a year. So I'm going on my 3rd book right now for Canyon. You have a question?
Yeah, but it seems
Well, that's Stan.
Aha!
Yeah.
Before
We'll
look
get
how
to that.
famous you are.
We'll get to that.
Ah.
We'll definitely get to that. But yeah, so I've recently gotten into animation. Me and my team, we released a trailer for a show called Nassau Rock. I don't know if anyone's seen it. But it's a story following 3 Bahamian students who discover these relics that possess these amazing powers. And so the theme of the whole story is just basically protecting the Bahama land. We'll actually be having a panel about that tomorrow, so if anybody's available for that, we'll be showing the animation and so on and so forth.
In
This very room, so
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock tomorrow, so if anyone's interested. But yeah, I do illustrations and comic books part-time, but as far as I see it, it's my full-time job. And that's what the aim is, to kind of shift the narrative from having to do it part-time to full-time. So, just looking at all the young faces, I know where to put standing. Yeah.
No, not yeah, man. Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
All right, hey, my name is Stanley Russell. I am a comic artist, illustrator, full-time graphic designer, store owner. I do everything. I had like 4 jobs last year. For me, my update, that's what it's supposed to be doing.
Wait, they don't know you. Introduce.
I guess I could say, starting from the beginning, I like the pioneer stuff. With the whole animation industry, comic industry, that was barely prevalent in Nassau. We started the Cage, which was Cards, Anime, Games, and Entertainment. We met on Fort Charlotte for everybody of like mind. We networked. A lot of artists, anime enthusiasts, people who like gaming, card games, whatnot. That was basically the kickoff of everything. Before that, I was doing web comics. I had a comic online on snafu-comics.com called Titansville. I started with that. I took that down. I started working on a story for Chaos Gaiden, which is a spin-off of Titansville. That is a fantasy world action fighting comic. It's online now, and it's also found in the Yabby magazine, which we pioneered after the Cage. We had free time, so the Yabby magazine is a collection of comic artists, Bahamian comic artists that pretty much got together. We wanted to do like a Shonen Jump style magazine, so we decided to pick that up. That was successful, but things happened and we had to put a break on that. I want to say what I'm working on now. We want to reintroduce Yabe as King, but that is a slow process, and like I said, I have a full-time job, so it's really hard to get all this together again. I have people coming to me asking me, when is it getting up again? They want to put their comic inside it. And pretty much, it's motivating me to do it, but it's slow paced because it's only me one. Maz was one of the pioneers for Yabe as well. It was just me and him, and we worked hard. It's a long process. So doing comics, it isn't easy. It's something that you have to build up. A lot of work goes into it, from planning to conceptualizing, doing storyboarding, all of that stuff. It's difficult work, but if you put your mind to it and you take the time out to do it, then I don't see why anyone can't be a comic artist.
It's definitely achievable.
Yeah, it is. I have 2 projects I'm currently working on, as well as, I opened the store recently. Since we closed the Cage, I went back into it. So it's a new anime store, cards, games, pretty much for people who like anime, game tournaments and whatnot. I had to get back into it to reintroduce all of this back to the Bahamian public because you don't have anywhere to go. You know, we're a lot of closet nerds and geeks, and we want to be able to hang out with people like ourselves.
Sir, did you not go to Dragon Ball Z Broly movie? We're not in the closet, bro. I saw like 15 guys with suits like Phil walking in, and my little boy comes and say Goku. He's like, listen, that's Goku old uniform. Come out here, you don't belong here.
Yeah, but I'm glad the culture is picking up. You can pass it around for the start. I'm glad the culture is picking up again. And it's
That's free advertisement. Hold on.
yeah, it's a big boost. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, they're here. Well, the kids are here. They know we're working on it. There is a place for them to come to. Well, currently now I'm working on, thanks to Lamaro, I'm working on a Bahamian superhero. Her name is, we need him. Her name is Zafira. She's a UV student that came across wind powers. I can actually show you guys. I can show you what concept works. Yeah, I guess not.
Yeah. Again, all the stuff that he's mentioning, when we do the final cut, we're going to put it in there so you can see it.
So, yeah, and I'm working with a guy that's actually currently in this room on some Bahamian folklore. His name is Dylan, right over there. I'm working, because we don't have anything, we don't have much. I think it's Chickani, the shark off of this thing.
That's the bit, but we're having
yeah, but we're working on making a lot more, so we have to come up with backstories and folklore for that. And that's pretty much the two things I'm working on. I took a backseat on my current comic, which is about 10 11 chapters long, Chaos Guide. Again, that's online, you can find it. Yeah, that's pretty much what I'm doing now.
So before we hand it over to Phil for questions and to facilitate that process, I want to just reiterate one of the key reasons why this was started, which is, if you don't notice it, all of us are over like 28. Miles, you young. 28? Yeah, I'm 20. He's 28. I'm 29. Lamaro's he don't want to say. And Stan's proud of his age, right? 32. And Stan's proud of his age. The point, I think, when I met each of these individuals is that a lot of Bahamians sadly waste a lot of time starting the whole reel again, trying to do it themselves, trying to do it by themselves, and thinking, oh, I have the answer. Please learn the lesson from this. A lot of us are getting old, and we don't want you to start over. It's about teamwork. It's about, like what Stan and Maz mentioned, finding somebody who's interested. And from my point of view, or what I do, it's about marketing to a new brand. I hate to see people create this whole comic that they start home and they think, oh, this is going to sell and people are going to like it, and then they get out there and nobody connects with it. Like, you have to market, you have to be relevant. And so find that experience, find that team and make it happen. We want everybody here to be a part of when it finally launches fully, you know? So just remember, that's the point of this. Don't think, each of us has a project that we're working on, but we also have to get jobs to find funding. It's near impossible to sit home all day and draw without your parents saying, what are they saying to school for? Okay, so please learn that from this and understand that. I'm also an employee, but contractual employee at UB, so I do branding and marketing. I get paid a lot of money, and I dress like this. So the point is, everybody has to do something to keep the hustle up, but I feel like in the next 2 years, we're going to hit this market strong, and we're going to come up with some good payment on that.
Yeah, so a theme that's come up with everyone we've spoken to for this project is there are people who create art and they do it as a reflex. No one has to tell them to create art, no one has to tell them to draw. I think everyone we've had talking about creating comics and cartoons and animation in the Bahamas, their story starts with they were the kid in the back of the class who was sitting there sketching. And one of the great things about this type of work and this type of art is you don't have to tell people to make it because people are already making it. The problem is that a lot of people will start making it and they'll never think of that as something they could actually do. As as a way to make money or something they could do for that to be the main thing they do in their life. I think, to reiterate what Ren said, having a network and having that infrastructure and having examples of people where you can say, oh, well, that guy, he comes from where I'm from, and he's done all the stuff I want to do, so it's possible. I think that's why having these guys here to talk about the work they do, and the generation who came before, Eddie Minister and Burnside, having those guys to talk about being an artist, kind of popular artist in the Bahamas, I think is really important. So maybe to kick us off then, I think this is a question we had before, but I think we've got a different audience here, and maybe now that you've had a year to think on it, maybe the answers will be a little different. But how do you do it? How does one go from being a kid in the back of the math class who's drawing cartoons of his teacher to being paid to make art, or being paid enough so that you can make art and work on projects?
I'll start. Yeah, I was definitely that kid. Pretty much a little bit above average academically, but I excelled at art. I knew what I wanted to do from early because I grew up watching TV, watching cartoons, the old VHS tapes. VHS is before DVD. So I grew up knowing what I pretty early on. I always wanted to make cartoons. I wanted to make stuff that I liked, and that still stuck with me. Through high school, I went to college to learn computer animation. I went to Full Sail University. And back then, I still don't think I knew what I really wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to make something I like, and I thought it had to be games. I thought I had to work in the industry in America. Many reasons that didn't pan out, so I had to come back home and figure out, I have the skill, what am I going to do with the skill? And job here, job there, got a media job, doing close to what I did, but not actually what I did. And even now, I'm still not fully doing it. I'm designing because I have to, and I'm lucky. I'm blessed the fact that I'm able to, work full time as a freelance artist. But now, I still want to do what I want to do, and that's Conquman, and that's all the other stories I have lined up, because it's easier to share your work nowadays, and that's why I encourage everyone to all the stuff that you're writing now, in the back of your heads, all the little stories, all the characters. I encourage you to keep working on it because we have an audience. The globe is watching everyone with Instagram and just TV. Even Netflix is open to new ideas. So continue working on your stuff. And then I also want to reiterate this. Push your skills, figure out what you like doing, and don't try to be anything that's not sincere to you. All our stories are stuff that we are interested in, and we're creating it in a way that is pleasing to us first, and then we can put that out to the world and they'll love it too. So be true to your style, but you also understand that you are very young now. Your style is going to change from now to 10 years. You're not even going to recognize your work, but you have to keep working to that, and you have to be self-disciplined. You have to know that, listen, nothing else I really want to do in life. I'm going to take the time and polish my skill because it's good for me. That's one of the things that I want to impart on you guys today.
Thank you.
Well, for me, when I was in school, 12th grade, what really helped me, because a lot of young artists, I feel, battle with, I may not be said, but a lot of artists battle with ego, where we kind of have these rivalries and we want to be better than the next person. But what was helpful for me was channel that energy into connection in terms of, well, you draw this particular thing better than I can, and I was able to connect with that person, they were able to teach me, and so that helped all of us to get better as artists, and we kind of got very serious about what we were doing to the point where one of the people I connected with were still working today. He's helping with my animation, so I really want to stress to a lot of you here that whilst you're in school, if you know someone who's writing, who's just as creative as you, take that opportunity to reach out to them, and you could create a partnership, and it could be a lifetime thing. When you think about Stanley, you think about Jack Kirby, usually go hand in hand, and a lot of times they tell you they met, years ago. So I would really encourage a lot of you to just connect with your peers. and definitely focus on that aspect of things, because when you leave the school environment, life really gets a little complicated, and it's harder to focus and stay on one path, especially when the world's changing. Let's be honest, we live in the Bahamas. It's not very lucrative to do comic books. Even as we sit here today, we can't lie and tell you that, but it's getting there. So if you know that going in it, I feel like you can build stronger bonds and tackle the issues a lot smarter than maybe your predecessors. And so I feel like that's a conversation that we should have. But it is rewarding.
Yes.
Comic books is very rewarding. I mean, like you said, we do this stuff without being told to do it. We tell these stories without being told to do it. But it's also very important to learn how to effectively tell these stories. To be fair, a statement that I like to make is, I don't think when comics were really starting to come out, these guys didn't really go to school for comic books, right? But they just did it, right? But now you have some people who have to go to school to learn this. So to me, that's very interesting. So it's saying, well, if a guy maybe in the 60s didn't have to go to school to do a comic book, it occurs to me that it's more about the drive to want to do it. If that drive leads you to a higher education, go for it. But if you don't have the means to do that, and that drive still there, I say follow that through, because it could be very rewarding. I think each of us here come from different backgrounds, and that kind of reflects that. And we can sit here and say that today. So do not be discouraged. It's very rewarding, in that aspect. And we are getting there. We have an animated show coming out. We got multiple comics coming out. I mean, like 5 years ago, you couldn't say that. Like, you couldn't say that at all. Period. But the future's bright.
To reiterate, don't think that you have to go to college. Most of the important things I learned in drawing and just in life was outside of school. And I didn't really get my skills to the level that I needed to until I came out of school and decided that, I need to get better. Everything is mostly self-taught. Even when I was younger, I just drew because it's an innate feeling. You just automatically do it. You can't stop drawing.
For me,
I don't want to go last. I ain't gonna lie. Stop it.
Talk about it. For me,
Go ahead.
for me personally. All right. There's a tagline from a movie that I like from Popstar: "Never stop, never stopping."
Is that a movie?
Yeah, it's not.
Is that
so? Andy Samberg.
Once I didn't know what that movie is, raise your hand.
Popstar.
You got one version.
You didn't make that?
Anyway, so it's never stop, never stopping, right? So let's take it from school days. In the back of the classroom drawing. People may make fun of you if it doesn't look good, and if it looks good, then everybody's going to be pushing you on. Draw this for me, draw that. I was there. I was one of the students. Everybody wanted me to draw for them. It helped me build my skills, but it also separated me from a lot of people. I had to look to the students above me in our class to get the. So I had to look to the students above me to get there was one particular student, he passed away. His name was Robert. And he was more into anime. But I found out about anime a long time ago. But when I saw his work, he was very heavily anime influenced. And I started to reach out to him, and he kind of mentored me. We had a little rivalry going on. When he told me my stuff was getting better than his, that made me feel a little bit good, but I told him to keep up. Because a lot of people they like their own work thing. They like to think that they know everything. They don't want to do any research. They don't want to get any better. What I did was I used all the tools at my disposal. And I researched. Even now, I still go on YouTube. I go on DeviantArt. I look for inspiration. I think that's the biggest thing, inspiration.
Yeah.
And all of this, you got to stay inspired. And like Maya said, it's a social networking thing. You gotta get with people that are like-minded. If you're doing it by yourself, then you may fall off because there's nothing motivating you to keep going. For me, my motivation was the people I was around, especially Maz coming later into life. When I started the cage, a lot of people showed up but this guy, he really liked to draw. And I noticed his work was reminiscent of Miyazaki. And I appreciated that because you had more people who was more into the anime community, drawing and stuff like that. So we got close, we started drawing, and we eventually came up with the idea because of that. They pushed us.
We didn't mention that. So this is Batman Revolver.
Oh yeah, Batman Revolver was first. Yeah, we did a webcomic series where we posted fully payment artists online. It spiraled into so that was basically the start for us. But with that coming into the comic magazine, it sold really well. Like I say, I'm sorry I had to take a break from it. Life, bills, I had to work. So, but I'm a full-time graphic designer. I do graphic design on the side as well. But that's my main job. And I still love doing comics, and I still draw from time to time. As such, I am working on projects now. But I would say there is money in it if you have the time to do it. But it's a serious thing when you're trying to balance free time and time to make money.
And right now, I'm finding that a lot of I like drawing, but there comes a point where you have to kind of stop drawing and do all the other things, the paperwork, the boring stuff. And for me, I have to create a symbiosis with my life. The professional stuff definitely has to feed my passion stuff, because that's the baby that I'm supporting, my ideas and what I'm working on and creating.
I'm really glad my graphic design and my art bounces off of it. Because I do my color work. I do pretty much everything when it comes to my comic. That's what.
That's why we definitely need to build a community. You'll eventually all find your tribe. I came from a fourth child, the nerdiest one, still the nerdiest one in school, and I didn't really have that community until I got much older and started, doing things outside the box and, forcing new friendships. And that's happening now in Nassau. I'm finding a lot more people who are like-minded. And school is a good place for that too.
Just asking that question, Bill. They wouldn't realize. Wow. Just go.
Okay. So I think, as we said, progress is being made. We are seeing a kind of emergence of a. There has always been newspaper cartooning, well not always, but there has been newspaper cartooning in the Bahamas for a very long time. Larry Smith wrote the first graphic novel in the 1970s. But what we're now seeing is a kind of a body of work from different Bahamian creators that's emerging in a way that hasn't existed before. What does the Bahamas need to do, or what do the buying public need to do? What do other people need to do? What needs to change in order for things to kind of to keep this momentum and to keep on growing?
That's a big question.
No! My turn! Stop it. Not to be unfair, I didn't share about myself because that question actually works into what I did. So I actually got my bachelor's degree in psychology, sociology, but I always could have drawn. So when the system didn't allow me to go forward with my degree, I had to go back to drawing. That's why I became a caricature artist. When I got into the industry, I watched people like Lamaro, Stan, and Mars, and I went to some of the meetings before they launched Boy, and I realized, wow, we doing this wrong. You see, when I went off on a caricature conference, I come to find out a lot of caricature artists were animators who quit because animation wasn't what they thought, and this goes into that question. So in an animation company, there's a CEO, a chief of finance, and a chief of marketing, accountants, stations, chief of artists, creative directors, publishers, street customer service, store managers. But in the Bahamas, then when we talk about animator, there's always a guy who's really talented, who could draw the whole thing. And then there's the printing process, which most likely they got to spend their money. And then there's a particular audience that would buy it. But honestly, that audience, you got to be realistic with the market, right? If I could go and get a Marvel comic right now for 99 cents, and I get a DC comic pretty much for free if I know the site to go on, why am I going to spend $10 for your comic in 2019? Honestly.
That's kind of apples and oranges, though, if I could interject.
No, that's fine.
I think that's That's a bold statement, but it's also a very unfair statement because you basically comparing, let's say it, a third world country to a first world country that had to do that stuff first. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to say the guy who drawing the animation, why he doing with other guys. He can't. He just can't.
Exactly.
So we can't overlook that limitation.
Yeah. But I was saying that's why I came into the industry, because I saw what y'all was doing and it needed a push. I think the best day ever is when I admitted that I couldn't ever draw as fast digital illustrations as Lamaro. That was the best day ever. Because a year after that, you didn't know I admitted, but a year after that, I would call Lamaro to do the animation flamingos, and he sent me an invoice, and I was able to pay the invoice. And that's when I realized when I did the contract with UB, when I had 8 artists I was working with, and everybody sent me their price, and I had the money to pay them. Then I understood why that structure is important. Because if I could have, anything, you spent like 3 months, right?
3 to 6 months.
Yeah. So he told me basically, in order to finish the animation, you need to pay me. And I then paid him, and he could have said and do the animation.
So that just goes into what needs to change. We need people to fund the arts.
Yes, that's how
Basically.
Especially government, where they waste a lot of money elsewhere, but they don't see the value in creative arts.
It's actually in the development plan.
Well,
the Prime Minister put it in the development plan of the country.
but the fact remains that if also we need a little bit more support locally. And our piece, we have to think about how we're going to sell our pieces too. It's not about just the stories, but how we sell it. And you have to get people interested in wanting to buy your stuff. How to do that, I'm still figuring that out.
I can't bag it out.
But yeah, more patrons of the arts. And there's some here, and there's some real strong patrons in Nassau especially. But you just need more, like, I think if government supported it more, it would go really far.
I think just to kind of piggyback off what you're saying, like I'm in the process of doing an animated show right now. Like we have the trailer set, it's out there in the public. You can watch it on YouTube, Facebook. It's called Nassau Rock, right? And you know the reason I kind of chimed in is kind of like it's that same idea where it's like you think about a Walt Disney, right? And I mean it's a no-brainer now. Okay, Disney, it's Empire. You go into a Disney animation workshop, thousands of people. But when you scale it back to this Walt Disney, you think about a guy with an idea in a country that didn't understand it yet, right? So the hard work had to be put in, and I think we're at that point. And the funny thing about being at that point, it's hard to buy into that dream. A lot of people want it to happen, but they don't know how they can help. And so I say that from the experience when we did the Nassau Rock trailer and we promoted the show. People were very interested. And the first thing people were saying, like, when? It was like, well, we need funding. We're giving them the budget, and then everybody kind of scratches their head.
But there's international funding to go fund.
For sure, GoFundMe, but if you look at it from a banking standpoint, you need.
I want to touch a reality I felt with Joain or Jason Evans, depending on how you know him, right? Jason and Maz worked on this great piece, this animation of a Haitian crew on a boat, and it sunk, and then there's a great ending message at the end. I'm not going to spoil it. When I saw that ending, I was like, this is fantastic. I saw the piece that Maz and Jason did, but at the BIF, that is the Bahamas International Film Festival, which is an accomplishment for animation, we had an animator, a Bahamian animator and a Bahamian illustrator produce something for the Bahamas International Film Competition. And with all due respect, if I may, nobody came. That right there is why I tell people I will work hard to find the money before you work. Because that's the most discouraging thing ever. I mean, with Jason's respect, because he don't make it say this. Jason was never that. Jason is 40-some years old. He's been doing this longer than all of us. And he was never that discouraged in his life. To finish a project, an animated project that was 30 or 40 minutes. How long?
I think it was 30 minutes.
30 minutes. One person doing it for months. And then produce it and put it at the Bahamas International Film Festival. And nobody showed would destroy you. And I think that's what, for me, this is my point to this too. I had to learn to stop caring about so much society and know what I'm doing it for. Because there's more people out there who appreciate your work. There's International Caribbean Festivals. There's the University of Trinidad where they do this every so often. There's so much awards we get. So what I want to tell everybody is don't get too focused on the Bahamian market. get to that standard where no matter where you put it, people appreciate your work, even if it's on YouTube. You see what I'm saying? Like, you have to get at a level where anybody who sees this don't even know you're payment. And that's why I got with my caricatures. When I first started, I was really cute. I was told to start me and my dad inside them. You know, some people give me bad bashment, and they didn't know the placement of like how it was, where I was. And I even remember somebody told me, go find a real job. And I asked them how much they just get paid, and they say, hey, I just get X amount of dollars a week. An hour if I do something. And I replied to them, well, I just get 3 times that an hour. And that's when I had to realize that, boy, I getting paid more for drawing than most people on their job. So I just need to put in that discipline to get where I need to go and get those clients out there. So then you get to the reality where he is at and where he's at, where you have clients waiting for you to stop relaxing or come on vacation so they can hire you for a job. When you get to that place, it's sweet, but it takes hard work. And the truth is, nobody may ever know. Yeah. And I want to end with that because Frank Hanna, anybody ever saw Frank Hanna new logo?
The cleaning company?
Yeah, the cleaning company. Frank Hanna, the cleaning company, who's been there for years. I just did their new logo. Twin Brothers, I did their new logo. I did it for Cans for Kids. I'm on their board of directors now. I did their logo. I did it for UB. You could do all this work out there, and nobody might ever know you are.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
and you have to get used to that. I mean, I'm getting paid, so I don't really care. But
yeah. So it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. You need a strong stomach because life isn't really easy. Like I had my own Roblox and I have my own things that discourage me, and you just gotta. Drawing was the only thing that kept me focused. It really recentered me because if you don't have a strong stomach for life, it's gonna be a hard ride, honestly.
And I think also there's an anecdote I'll borrow from a colleague of mine who's saying he knows people who are in a Bahamian band who are playing in a venue, and he saw people come to the door, and as they were coming in, they said, "We've got a band playing, so there's like a $10 entrance fee," and they were like, "When do the band finish?" And then they'll come back when the band's not there, so they don't have to pay the entrance fee. And I think this is a problem of we tend to devalue local works, and it's often only and it's not just in art, it's in literature, it's in music. In order for a Bahamian artist to be taken seriously in the Bahamas, they often have to first be taken seriously outside of the Bahamas and then come back. So it's certainly not limited to animation. It happens in lots of other industries, and so I would say one of the things that probably everyone can do to help is make a conscious effort to buy the work of.
Yeah, it's encouraging.
Yeah.
We have to encourage one another. I try to encourage all artists because, Bahamas is it's not encouraging us for creativity. It really isn't. But be stronger. We got to encourage one another, and our society needs to change that. We're very negative. We're very patronizing, especially to people with peculiar jobs or peculiar notions. Like, just a little bit more encouragement. How you encourage? If you have something, if someone's selling something, buy it, support it. You might love it.
Or come out. I want to say sometimes it's not even just a financial support. It's the effort that you make to be present, like you are today, and just show people that there's strength in numbers, and people start to pay attention. Really, unfortunately, in our country we do value numbers and money, and so if people don't see that, they don't think it's worth the time. And
even when they see that, but it don't matter. Even when they see that.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is at the end of the day, if you're going to do this anyway, and you love what you're doing, and there's enough of us who feel that same way, I feel like it only makes sense to support each other. One thing I cannot, I wouldn't say stand, that's a bit harsh, but there's one thing that just kind of displeases me, I guess, that's a polite way of saying it, is when I see a group of artists who tear down another artist, right? Like they enjoy, like, look at this, what is this? Like, instead of trying to build that person up, because it's already a harsh environment, it's like we love destroying them, and then we love to do this thing. Why would I pay for that when I can deal with Marvel? It's like that's such.
I can be honest though, it was because of the destroying. With all due respect, son, I met like 15 artists who bashed Stan before I even personally met them, and I realized with Mother Flip, I need to be in Stan's circle, and that's the tip I want to give everybody. Use the best person in your crew or drawers. Find a new crew.
Also, shake that notion of best.
Yeah, I love that.
Everyone's unique. Everyone has a unique.
No,
voice and style.
let me rephrase that. If you are sitting around friends who cannot help you to learn new styles and become better as an artist, then I'm not saying to drop your friends. I'm saying find an influencing circle that can help you grow.
Yeah.
Just like too condescending. I think even with that example where people look at a book that was published from a Bahamian artist, right? Like okay, who's this yellow magazine? Like, if your immediate thought is I want to scoff at this and kind of come from a condescending angle, I think that's the problem. It's like the approach should be, wow, someone produced a comic. Let's dive in, right? And as we dive in, we see the things that can be fixed. We offer that support. I don't know what it is.
Are we talking about the same generation that just bash Captain Marvel?
But here's the thing, like the balancing act for me is like, see, here's the thing, right? The balancing act for me in that statement is that's why I was saying, like, they would say, well, I could just buy a Marvel. It's like, of course you can. It's like, we're talking about $1 million company. Like, and even they make mistakes, by the way, because I've read comics.
He just said that Captain Marvel was... Hey, the whole movie, he said it.
But no,
Captain Marvel, the whole movie was his mistake.
We're going to have a conversation. I disagree.
That's the problem. With people who bash or people who find work, and they, most of the time, they'd be trying to tear down and destroy it. They are artists themselves.
Yeah.
Most of the time, when you hear something negative, it's from another artist. And that's the same attitude. You're not looking at this person as, hey, they're trying to make a way for all of us. It's more, oh, you draw this, I don't like it, this ain't my style.
Yeah.
You know, I should be doing this.
Or a lot of the time it comes from a place of they are afraid that they won't succeed as an artist, and so they want to find examples of other people not succeeding so that they feel okay about their talent.
Makes them secure in their place.
Yeah.
And also, the biggest critic is yourself. You can be very hard on ourselves, let's face it.
I ain't gonna lie, this guy doesn't know how good he is. You know why I love Lamaro? Because a lot of Bahamians thought he was in the States. Whenever they hit him up on his site and they'll go to him for illustrations, they'll get a quote from him, then they'll come to me and be like, I found this Lamaro guy online. He was expensive. I was like, get out of here. And I was so happy, you know, because now that he's over here, it's over, right? I can't find a job. But when he was in the Freeport place, it was like, that was a fun circle of, oh, we went to Lamaro and then he did recommend you. I was like, oh, really?
It's cheaper.
But honestly, if you can't draw illustrations, I have like 5 projects right now. I have all my clients waiting until April. So jobs are out there. You just have to if your skill is there, honestly, hit me up. And
I'm looking for colorists for my book.
yeah, I'm looking for voice actors now too. So if your skill is there, you can find yours. And it's not discouraging when people tell you no or they say it's not good. It just means it gets better. That's all I hear. Get better. Get better to a point that you get hired.
I'm willing to teach colorists. No.
He's a great teacher.
I'm a digital colorist. I'm willing to teach.
All of them to teach you how to do it. I teach customer service and business. I teach something.
So I think one of the important points here is that we've reached a point now where there are gaps that need to be filled. That there is a vacuum for new talent. It's not the case of people jealously guarding their piece of the pie. This is people saying like, I've got a load of stuff I need to get done. I know that I'm only one man. I can't get all of this done on my own. So there's actually opportunities here for someone to get a hand up, to get mentorship, to get work, to get the opportunity to see how things work. And so, like you were saying, it's not just starting it from scratch. These guys learn from them and get work from them and kind of get dropped into the industry.
And before if we need time to take questions too.
Yeah,
but I also want to honestly reinforce, don't fake your funk. Like a lot of people who I send jobs to, I get the jobs back. So get your skill level up there, practice. I mean, Daddy, if I can, I've drawn on the toilet in the morning. Like, current was off, I think, during the hurricane, and I was drawing using the candle to make money because the job was due the next day. And I didn't understand how much that was being an artist until I went abroad, and everybody has the same story. The job is due, everything's off an island, you have to go to Starbucks. Because Starbucks, anything, that's why I got Lamaro or somebody. Maybe buck or someone.
Starbucks,
Yeah. Every morning we bucking in Starbucks, and that's when you kind of know you're doing the right thing. When you keep bucking this guy somewhere, oh, I'm figuring this out. You're on the right track.
So let's do questions. We've been talking for a long time. Who wants to? Yeah.
They get jokes when you use them. in this field.
I'm Brandon, your friend until the end. And this is Dr. Phil. Literally, Dr. Phil.
I guess I have more of a comment for the young men that I'm familiar with. Coming from the educational system, I would say, I believe right now there's a need for a link. I think the gentleman, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Dr. Smith.
Dr. Smith, I think you alluded to that.
Yeah.
So there are hundreds of cases that we've been doing for 14 years. And the challenge with the high school system is to pinpoint the children who would be more inclined for, say, animation or developing a comic or filmmaking or video production or any number of things. But let's say you are a teacher who has your finger on the pulse and you do identify the Zuriels and the, can't call his name right now, but you do identify those children. Okay, now, what link or what structures are in place to facilitate you pinpointing these young people, these young men, what have you. And I proved it to myself. I said, it took one particular year, I said, you know something, I'm going to write, and I'm going to seek out persons in the industry who would be willing to help the young people who might be in the educational system who want to develop their skills. I'm going to try to pinpoint. But I found that, let's say your schedule, okay? You're busy dealing with your deadlines. And your deadlines may conflict with, say, the time that maybe a student has who has the BGCSE and the BJC and the SATs and the other academic requirements. It may conflict with what the parent may want to do and what the child's heart may be leading them to do. So I would say I really appreciate listening to you, and this is awesome. But let's see if we can try to find a way to create some type of bridge where it's not difficult for them to find you and work with you and be mentored by you.
I want to speak to that. So back in 2010, up until now, I started a mentorship program. We approached 15 different schools and we let them know the requirements were simple. Give me the student who looks out the window. Because remember, my background is psychology. Told every student, give me the student who looks out the window, the one who draws when you're talking, the one who sucks their teeth, and the one who's looking out into space and failing tests. They were my requirements. And the teachers looked at me and they laughed and they said, you can't be serious. 3 schools picked up the program. C.W. Saunders, primary, we had A.F. Adley, and then we had Anatole Rogers. From there, we had 458 students pass through the program. The first test is one of discipline, which speaks to what you're talking about. A lot of parents and a lot of people want this artist who's given their time, mentorship, skills, and teaching to chase after all 400 of those students. So the first test was devised by Alan Wallace, myself, Jamal Road, and Stephen Davis, which is we test every artist on the first thing you need to survive, discipline. Every student who sent an email that was Mad Dog 242 or whatever, that was a crap email, we issued them a professional letter stating to them, all you have to use is use this email with the password and the mentorship shall begin. We did that process, and those who had good emails, they could start to. And out of 448, we went down to 4, who became my ultimate 4 mentees. Mom, I'm telling you with confidence, because I tried it for 6 years and spent over $40,000. The system, when I went from island to island, does not understand the need of artists and the freedom that's needed for artists. Second of all, most people who, I don't want to say this word because I know it's not I'm asking to do. Most people who dictating where artists should go have not succeeded. So a primary example of that is, do you need the partial BGCSEs to be an artist?
No.
No.
No, agree.
What does passing your BGCSE in art really grade? And the people who graded themselves, if they was artists, they can't do it. And how do I know that? Because I recently did a competition and neither Jamal, Alan, Steph, myself, I think I actually grade them too. Did I? This is when I did the caricature competition. No, but I asked artists to grade artists. That's why I didn't give out to you. And you know the truth about real artists, bro? Everybody said the same thing. Bro, I don't believe in that. So the truth is, any artist out there who wants to make it will continue to draw. A lot of parents who came in my program want their child to make $175 an hour like me. My mentees make, just for being a mentee and showing up to any event, they make $35 an hour. So I instantly have a drive of people who only want to be in my program for money. So I'm telling you with confidence, when the government is serious, it will happen. But people out there, more than me, I know other people who have programs. My good friend Joain, who's in Size in Salvador, no degree, and he teaches at 2 of the schools up there just because he's the best artist. And the oldest artist on the island had to retire. So with confidence, I tell you, we're trying, it's out there.
So the only thing I would say is your method, no argument. But I will say this. The person you may address in reference to, say, the mentorship program may not be the person you need to speak with. Personally, I'm working in the system. I have challenges just getting basic communication. So for me, I would ask you if you I don't know how you can find out who within that environment is the most conducive person to communicate with. I don't know.
Okay, that sounds
I don't know. No, they wouldn't. Not every. They wouldn't be. But that's one of my. That's one of for me.
Yeah. Can I say to you and other teachers, just I always speak directly to students, and I always willing to critique students' work. So just reach out directly to me as a promising student. Happy to speak.
Okay.
And that's actually been kind of, because I was just to your class this week, actually Tuesday.
Yes.
So and I was also a student, by the way. The English teacher, she could tell you I was in the back of class.
Right.
No joke.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So everyone's going to share their contact information, right?
Yes. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So I just, let me
If
just
you put
introduce
your
myself.
name on the paper that's been passed around. Who was it?
So my name is Tajh and I'm actually the president of the Bahamas Screen Estate Association. So as you guys, first of all, very well done presentation. So I just wanted to propose something to possibly bridge the gap. So it's very clear that you all are one person per person, so you physically probably can't be everywhere to, mentor this program and that. How do you guys feel about having recordings or productions where you guys actually teach classes? Obviously, we can put it on mediums so we can be able to, so everybody will be able to have access to it. Obviously, you're artists, you need to eat, so that's something that you guys can monetize, or if you do basically want to, distribute some free of cost, giving back to the society you have. But if you are interested in that, please speak with me. I'll be more than happy to give you guys the highest production quality to be able to bridge that gap. So.